Fran or Washington?
Listen, it impacts San Fran in a bad way, in a very negative way. Yes. What do you mean? You lose a player like Deebo
Samuel.
We know what the Commanders look like without Deebo Samuel.
Samuel.
So you add Deebo Samuel
Samuel.
to the equation, you take some of the pressure off of Jaden Daniels. Cliff Kingsbury creativity offensively, and bring in Deebo
Samuel.
Who can play in the slot, you can play in the backfield, he's a Swiss Army knife.
Look, Chad, no disrespect, you're one of my favorite players of all time, but his name is Deebo Samuel. You keep throwing that S on at the end there. But I do agree with what you're saying. I think the Commanders are a good spot for Deebo. I mean, the last couple years have been a little disappointing. He's dealt with some injuries and whatever, but I think going into this offense, especially with Cliff Kingsbury being the offensive coordinator, he's going to have a decent year. Like, I don't expect him to have some crazy, outrageous year and put up big numbers, but he definitely takes the pressure off of Jaden Daniels now going into his second year. We saw in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan, similar to Cliff Kingsbury, they run that like West Coast offense type of thing because they've had all those Swiss Army knife type of players, to use the word that you used. So I think it's a good fit for the Commanders and for Deebo. 49ers, I don't know if they're going to miss him too much just because they still have Shanahan. If McCaffrey stays healthy, Kittle stays healthy, Brandon Ayuk decides to play football, I mean, there's still going to be a decent offense. Juwan Jennings, their backup running backs played well when McCaffrey went out. And just because his last couple disappointing seasons, I don't think the 49ers are going to miss him too much. And like I said, I don't think he's going to have a crazy good year for the Washington Commanders, but definitely a good piece for them to add into their offense.
Look at the crew we have today. Dan Orlovsky joining the program, the monochromatic all Navy.
What's up?
Stepped your game up.
What's up?
What's up, White Chocolate?
Hey, everybody.
What's up, White
How was
Chocolate?
Hawaii?
How are you? Hawaii was amazing.
Yeah?
I would go back in an absolute heartbeat.
Stop.
Stephen A., you stop. I've been to Hawaii once. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed with my own eyes. Can't believe I still went there. Spent a week there. Great place. Highly recommend it to anybody that hasn't been there. Sorry, go on.
Exit row, seat 13A.
Frontier?
All the time.
37. I was in row 37, very last row. And honestly, during the middle of the flight, I'm going, I don't regret not buying first class.
How could you not? It's about the trip.
Yeah, the money I
Two
saved.
cheap-ass people. Move on with the subject, Molly. I don't want to listen.
I
Let's
honestly
get the
don't
football.
regret. I don't regret it.
Dan, which quarterback would you rather have now that Stafford's out of the picture? Rodgers or Darnold?
I'd rather have Sam Darnold. I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, the season that they're coming off of, Sam Darnold proved that very good starting quarterback in the NFL.
Dan, good choice. I agree with you on that. I'd rather have Sam Darnold than Aaron Rodgers at this point in their careers. I agree with you on that, but I have to disagree with you saying he's proven to be a really good starting quarterback in the NFL. He played really well last year, no doubt about that. Had his name in there for MVP, but I think he pretty much ended up in the perfect situation. I mean, he had a really good team around him, good head coach, a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and a really good defense to go along with it. Good defense can help out the offensive side of the ball, helps out the quarterbacks, keeps them on the sidelines longer, keeps them out of danger longer. So I just think that Darnold was in the perfect situation. I mean, other than being on like the Chiefs or the Eagles, but he ended up in a really good situation and played well. I just can't confidently say that he has proven to be a really good starting quarterback yet.
Sam Darnold will be able to go somewhere else and play as good, if not better than what he played in Minnesota. Is that what you feel? That's what you feel comfortable saying, Dio?
Well, it would determine or depend upon where that is.
First off, for whatever reason, that shot of Stephen A. standing next to Dan is just hilarious to me. I don't know why, but Dan, I agree with you. It definitely depends where he goes. Like I said earlier, if he goes to the Chiefs or the Eagles, he's going to have a successful season just because of the offensive line, the weapons, the coaches for those teams. I don't think he's going to have a better season this year than he did last year with the Vikings, but I do think he's capable of playing just as good if he's in that right situation. Like if he goes to the Browns, like every other quarterback, he's just going to have a terrible season and probably end up somewhere next year. But I think if he goes to the right team with the right assets and coaching around him, he can still have a successful season.
I do believe a motivated Aaron Rodgers is better than Sam Darnold.
Shannon.
Unless
That's
Darnold goes back to
Shannon.
That is wait 1 second, Stephen A. That is a complete 180.
Yes, it is. No.
I mean, I don't know how much more motivated Aaron Rodgers could have been than last year. 2 years ago, tearing his Achilles in the first game of the season. Obviously, that was horrible, but he had to be super motivated to come back last year, with the Jets and try to prove to everybody that he is the Aaron Rodgers of the past, the MVP Aaron Rodgers. And he simply just did not do that. I'll say that he stunk for the majority of last year. Really not a whole lot of excuses. He had the weapons around him: Breece Hall, Tyler Conklin, Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson. He got his boy Devontae Adams there, who they have this weird relationship that is just odd to me. But he had the weapons around him, ended up getting his coach fired. Jets basically cleaned house. I just don't know how much more motivated Aaron Rodgers can get, and I just don't see him having a successful future for however long that might be in the NFL and whatever team he ends up on.
I'm not picking Sam Darnold over Aaron Rodgers.
Man.
You got to be kidding me.
Listen.
Go ahead, Ocho.
Y'all are flakes.
You did a 180 too, Chad.
I did not.
Yes, you
My
did.
position is the same.
Yes, you did.
My position is the same.
Yes, you
Look at the
did. You
tape.
were like, rest in peace, Aaron Rodgers. That you were so sick of Aaron
Excuse
Rodgers.
me.
You guys are crazy. I'm glad I'm safe and sound all the way over here in Pittsburgh. But Stephen A., tape or not, I've said it probably every single time I've been on this show. You need to make an opinion and stick to it because it makes a lot of people upset. Obviously, you just saw that there with your coworkers. But the amount of 180s and switching of opinions just gets a little bit out of hand. Whether you got the tape or not, there's always going to be evidence that you always switch your mind. So opinion, stick to it, plain and simple.
Two things in life: consistent and resilient.
Again, a quarterback is only as good as
my
his supporting
God.
cast.
Molly, that was the cleanest dap up I've ever seen in my life. Dan, I know that you got that in you, but Molly, that's good stuff. Keep that up.
Sam Darnold has to prove me he can complete a regular season and win a damn playoff game. Simple as that.
You'd want Aaron Rodgers on the Steelers
Yes.
ahead of what you have?
Ahead of what I had, which I said last week, which you neglected to mention.
Come on, guys, don't neglect what Stephen A. has to say. But I think Aaron Rodgers going to Pittsburgh is a recipe for disaster. Yes, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. So is probably Russell Wilson, and you saw what happened to him towards the end of the year and how Steelers fans reacted. It did not go very well. I could see a similar situation if Aaron Rodgers ends up there, just because I think his tank is empty and I don't think he's capable of playing like the old Aaron Rodgers, multiple MVP, Super Bowl champion. I mean, I think his mind is just away from the game. His body language when he was with the Jets was just terrible after interceptions or turnover on downs. Even when the other team would score on the defense, he just looked out of it. Not happy to be there at all. I'm sure a new city and a different team might cheer him up a little bit, but I just think football-wise and talent-wise, he doesn't have it. Stephen A., I know you would love for Aaron Rodgers to be on the Steelers, and then by like week 5, you'd probably have a different opinion, but recipe for disaster with Rodgers going to Pittsburgh if that's even a possibility.